find that real estate not only sets you free and financially, but it also allows you to contribute to somebody else's life. And you can actually provide homes, which is what we do, is we provide clean and comfortable homes, but in apartments and homes that people can live in. So it's really, and that when I get to do that inside of real estate, that really gives me contentment and really fulfills me. It's like I've got something done. So this is really why I do real estate. So just a little bit about myself. So those of you guys who, if you want to connect with me, if you want to connect, I want to call myself experienced and successful and out-of-state investor, you're welcome to go ahead and do that. And you can scan that Q code and you can go ahead and get a hold of me if you need to. If you have any questions, I'll also be around the room at the end of the night. You're welcome to ask me any questions you may have, okay? Going forward, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about ITI. How many of you guys have seen us online? Okay, good. We're starting to grow. Okay, that's good. That's good. You know, we're actually pushing it. You know, ITI actually been in, we've been in fruition for the last almost a year now. Not quite almost a year, but we're doing really, really, really awesome. And one of the things that we declared at the beginning, what was really ITI? ITI was investor to investor, which I'm very, 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 very happy to say that the people that started the ITI was Christina and Bronson and myself. Actually, they were the pioneers. I just happened to come along and want to partner up with them and say, you know, where can we go with this? And so we really created a vision that we would become a brand name known for people that can really, we can educate and transform their lives, not just only educate them, but really transform their life through real estate education. And when I say transformation, I'm talking about like, you know, it's one thing that you can have all the knowledge in the world, right? But if you're don't have the right mindset, and if you don't take action, you're not going to get very far. You know, like I know a lot of us in this room, you know, kind of keep staying on whatever it is and keep wondering, when am I going to make it happen? When is it going to happen? I will encourage you that tonight you're going to have an opportunity to take a step forward. And that's really what this event is all about, is for you guys to really get encouraged. So if whatever that you are sitting, I'm hoping that tonight will provide you an opportunity by seeing what Cody's been able to do. Okay, and this is really, for Cody, is really an inspiration. When I heard Cody coming in, you know, we've got people coming in from San Diego, New York, and Seattle, you know, flew down here so they can be with Cody because they also saw something in him. So I hope that you guys can have that same experience and really take your real estate journey to a whole new level, right? So it's just kind of around that. And I think this really fulfills in who we are by having Cody, because our mission is to aim to grow and transform the quality of a participant's life, right? And we're going to do it through what? Through transform, by providing education, networking among like-minded people. So tonight you will have that opportunity. You will network with a lot of people at the end of the room. Christina's going to come up and she's going to break us up. So please be sure that you take advantage of that and make sure you go home with people that you can connect with after the meeting. Don't go home and just say, oh, it was a great meeting. At least go home with having some contact with some other people so you can really get the full benefit of being here, okay? Now, what have we done? So our community is growing, as obviously you can see people are coming in from different parts of the world and different parts of the country. And now what we are doing to go ahead and do this tonight, I'd like to announce, again, I want to go ahead and give all of our team a very, very big clap, because tonight, actually, believe it or not, we are virtual. And we do have some people online because we've been talking about how can we grow? How can we grow? How can we grow? So it is one thing to be able to just say, let's do it. But it's another thing to say, okay, let's play virtual. Let's go ahead and get out there and do it virtual. So tonight we are going virtual. So let's give a big hand to So we've got 3 people online, so I love that. Yeah, guys, whatever you are. Yes, thanks for being here. All right, that's what it matters. Huh?
They sent a plot emoji.
Oh, perfect. There you go. That's awesome. So what else is going on? So the other thing that is going on that, you know, like I said, this has just been about a year. You guys will find some flyers in front of you, you know, with the brochures that we have around ITI. And those are some of the courses that we actually are offering. This year, we started last year with a course called our leadership program. And that's what you will see on there. And a lot of our leaders actually graduated from that course because it was a scholarship that we provided for the people that took it on. And now some of those people have moved to our advanced leadership program. which, we'll talk about that later on about that. But just that you guys know, there's definitely opportunity if you want to become a member of ITI and become a volunteer inside of ITI, you will definitely have a lot of opportunities to be with like-minded people and surround yourself with people doing already in the transactions and going forward. And for having said that, about a year ago, just about probably, I think about a year ago it was when we finished our leadership program, Jimmy came to me and he said, Steve, I want to be one of the guys that's going to go out there and lead the ITI. So, I want to congratulate Jimmy. Let's congratulate Jimmy. Yeah. So Jimmy is going to have actually to expand. Jimmy's going to have his new ITI event happening in 90 days in Corona. Pardon me, in Diamond Bar. Yes, Diamond Bar. Thank you. So we are looking for people who wants to team up with Jimmy. Okay, if you are interested, if Corona is a possibility for you, Diamond Bar is not too far for you. And we're definitely we would love to have you be out there. And I know that there's a lot of people coming from that part of the town. So this will be a great opportunity. And Jimmy's going to have a wonderful speaker going to come about. And so, but just coming about, just kind of give you an idea what's going on. What else are we doing? I don't know if you have gotten or not, but our newsletters are going out. We now actually have a full-on VA that goes out and does data research. So really starting to bring a lot of data together. And so we're now starting to put our newsletters together. So they're no longer the same emails where like, hey, we just want you to know there's an event going on. But there's actually research being done. And so you will know what's going on. And the ITI vision is to always keep you informed in really what's going on in the market. So we find that is also going to continue to grow ITI as an investor, as an investment, as an investor education and networking company. The next thing is our next event is on April 3rd, which is our guest speaker. And I'm really happy to announce that, how many of you guys know Chad? Yeah. Just give him big Chad, big Chad. Yeah. Chad was here about a year ago. He's a very, 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 very powerful syndicator. And I think that's one of the things that he really learned is about how do you select the right partners? So we think that's a big deal, especially if you're in real estate, because without the right partners, you can only go so far. But having the right partners will really take you way, way longer, okay? So this is happening on April 3rd. If you guys, again, want to go ahead and register, you're welcome to go ahead and scan that. If not, you can go online and you can go ahead and do that as well. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and I think I've said everything I need to say. And okay, my clicker stopped. All right. I thought I was going to look like I was going to show off over here, but what happened to our camera?
Checking. The camera turned itself off.
Okay, awesome. All right, sounds good. Okay, perfect. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce our hosts. Let's have Bronson and Christina come out.
All right, guys, who's excited to be here tonight?
Yeah.
Let's try that again. Who's excited to be here tonight, guys?
We're very excited that you're here. This event was created. We've been doing this now for 5 years. It's been actually over five and a half years we've been doing this together. And we created investor to investor less than a year ago to really create a space for investors to be able to help other investors out. So this is not a sales meeting. You're not gonna come get pitched something great of, some $10,000 weekend. That stuff is great, but like, that's not gonna happen here. But we found just, for me getting from, coming to these events for years with Christina and getting to a place where I actually started taking action. I made a decision that I'm actually gonna do this. Hey, brother, he's coming down. We got Seattle as well. This guy came down from Seattle. Good for that. And so, but to create a place for transformation, because when you do your first deal, if you quit your job, when you quit your job, I should say, your life changes. And so that's what we want to create. This is a transformation meeting that basically is about mindset, and we use real estate and investing to do that. You may know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah. So if you want to change, it changes in here, and then you see it out here. So going from $0 raised 5 years ago to 40 million, And that's not just a brag, but it's like it happens from being in rooms like this and just continuing to take the steps that are in front of you.
Beautiful. All right, and I have my also.
Oh, clicker.
Clicker.
Steve ate the clicker. He ate it.
You didn't need a clicker?
So this is my background, 200 million in multifamily assets that basically raised over 40 million. We're doing things like ATM machines, car washes, oil and gas, some other alternative stuff now. And then I have my educational platform as well. So Christina.
All right, thank you, Bronson. So,
you want the clicker?
I've decided I need to add to this slide. So I'm a real estate investment advisor. I've been investing for 35 years. I started when I was 2 months old and I really thought that was okay, good. They were awake.
That joke.
I've done this joke almost every meeting. It's just a question of whether they're awake or not. No, I actually started when I was 17. Which means if you add 35 to 17, I'm not going to tell anybody anymore. I'm stopping at 35. So I'm just going to stay the same age for the next several years. Do you think that's a good idea? But yeah, I've been investing for 35 years. And in that 35 years, I started in residential and I grew through single family, fourplexes, multi-units inside of California, outside of California, done a condo conversion, lot split, owned condo hotels, apartment buildings, done hard money loans against it. I have flipped single family, I have flipped multifamily. And in 2009, my daughter was born. And what was happening in 2009, everybody?
Fourth grade.
I think it was fourth grade. 2009, the market was absolutely tanking. So I sold every door I had. I had 6 doors of my own and 300 doors I shared among a few partners of mine. And I sold every door and every asset I had. I wanted to be peaceful. I was a mom now because those are my two passions. My passion is real estate and financial freedom and mindset. And my other passion is children and child development. So I have an elementary teacher's credential and I love teaching. So now my portfolio is diversified. I'm a more careful investor. I have learned how important it is to both grow my assets, but also protect my assets over time. Because that's something I'm going to leave to my daughter. So that's valuable to me. I bring that discipline, that mindset, that awareness to my consulting practice. So I've advised on portfolios anywhere from $2 million all the way up to $50 million, as well as working with a couple of funds over time. And that experience is what I lend to people in my consulting practice. Mindset is the core element across my history, across their investing success, the willingness to be successful. The willingness to hold to your word. And as Bryson said earlier tonight, the willingness to take massive action. Just because you're going to choose that. Maybe your self-confidence as aligned that day. I got here tonight in Bronson, what did I share with you?
We shared a lot of things.
I shared a lot of things. One of the things I shared was, I care a lot I have a daughter, right? 2009, she was born. I shared that I set my daughter up to have a hard lesson this afternoon. I set her up. I made her nervous. She walked in, she had a hard time with a teacher she has a hard time with. I'm aware that I set her up for that. So I walked in here tonight going, oh, I'm not a very good mom, am I? I just set my kid up, right? Anybody had those parenting moments? Any of those work moments, right? Where you go, I did something, I set it up. But I still have to stand up here in front of you guys and hold true to my mission and my vision, which is my mindset, my choice. I can let my ego pull me away and then not be here for you guys. Or I can go, you know what, ego, thank you for the feedback. I'll clean that up with my daughter. But I'm still a human being that believes in helping other human beings move forward in their lives to something better than what they were before they walked through the door. Would you guys want me to give up on that? Or do you want me to stand for that?
Stand for it.
Want me to stand for it,
Yeah.
right? Do you want to stand for that in your own lives? Do you want to stand for that in your own life? That you're something better 10 minutes from now? That you're something better 2 hours from now? That you're something better 2 months from now? And what's the pathway to that? Mindset, massive action, and the commitment to authentic transformation in your life. Okay.
I have one more piece about mindset real quick. How many of you guys have some big goals for this year? Raise your hands up real high. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, nice.
I had a conversation with somebody today who's in the coaching space. And they said, what do you want to accomplish this year? I said, I want to raise $25 million this year. It's way more than we've raised in the previous years. They said, okay, well, what do you need to do to get there? And I said, I need 10,000 new leads this year. A lot of leads, right? 10,000 new leads. We have 6,000 total over the last 4 years. That's like tripling our list. So it feels huge, whatever. And then he said, okay, well, instead of being like, I want this goal, is saying like, I must have this, right? You see that just even changing one word changes, because if it's something I must have, things that you have to have, you will act differently than things you want. You understand what I'm saying? Sure. Right? If you must have it and you create a compelling why around it, then there's something that you actually commit to. Right. And so to me, and then we started doing some exercise where we said, well, what's the person that I need to become to be able to do that? And they let me kind of sit with it and think about it. Right. And so for your goals, you can think about it. What do I need? What's the type of person? Well, I got to become a powerful person in these ways. I've got to be somebody who's accountable. I hold myself accountable to this. I hold my team accountable to this. Right. And there's a joy, there's a passion and a relentlessness about that goal. So if you have a goal in your heart, keep it in mind. I'm all for goal. I read my goals every morning. I make big goals for the year. I go through this, and I think everybody should do that. But when you change it from I want or I'm going to like I must do this. And if you must do it, then you have a compelling reason to get there. And I want to share this quote from you from Jim Rohn. It says, the major value of reaching goals is not to acquire it, but it is the person you become while you're working to acquire it. It's kind of subtle, right? It's not just the goal. Like 10,000 new leads, that's great. $25 million, that's great. But it's the person that you actually become. And that's the transformation. So that's what I want to encourage you with. And again, our speaker tonight is awesome and he's done this. And again, it's amazing to me how you change your mindset and you show up to the world a certain way and the world will respond and say, oh, this person is this. It doesn't matter if you've been something totally different. How many of you like to step into something different this year than you've been last year or the year before, right? Well, you can do that. Right? And how do you do that? It starts with your mindset. It starts with what do you say to yourself? If you're always beating yourself up, if you're, as we're kids, we do that. So we've got to change those tapes that we listened to for years and years. It says you're stupid, you can never do this, or the voice of maybe an older sibling or a parent. So again, these are mindset things. I'm just giving a little bit now, but it's stuff that anybody relate with this? Anybody can relate with the negative tapes? Yeah. So you change the tapes, you change who you're around with, you change the environments that you're in, and really you make a decision. You come to meetings like this, it's not going to change your life unless you actually commit. I came for 6 years to these meetings, didn't do anything. I made a decision. My life began to change very quickly. Very quickly.
Let me ask you guys just a question. So we're doing this not just for the money. We also have agreed on that, all the head nods, right? We're doing it because we want transformation in our lives and in our being. So in your mind, there's a who you are after this transformation that we're hoping for. There's a word in there. Something in there, a singular state of being. I want to be happy, peaceful. I want to be confident. I want to be, what's your word? Every one of you has it. Look in that vision in your head of who you would be in that moment when you go, yeah, that's who I am. That's who I want to be. What's your word? Some version of freedom for many people. For me, it was the peace and clarity of knowing I'm on purpose. For me, it was, my word was Mother Teresa. I know that's crazy, that makes no sense, but my word, why? Because she had such incredible clarity about her purpose. That's what I wanted. I wanted clarity about my purpose. So what's your word? Write it down. If you've got it, write it down. And let that be part of your mantra, your transformation, your statement, your mission, your vision, because that's who I want to be. That's really why I'm doing it. So I get to have that state of being. Encouragement.
Okay, so, oh, there we go. There's Cody tonight. Okay, so don't think this thing actually works, though, that you just hit the button, or did I open it?
Yeah, it just
I hit it
worked.
twice.
Actually works.
You did it,
So-
not me.
So I'm really excited. We've talked a lot about him. Excited. I'm just gonna read a little bit about this trailblazer in the real estate realm. At 19 years old, how many wish you were doing this stuff at 19 years old? It's anything real estate? Yeah.
No, I.
It's huge.
Yes.
He got his first rental property and then he got to 81 units. There's actually was some sort of miscommunication of the thing. He's got about over 200 units now, over 200 units, basically. And now he's 24, right? From the time we published this is 20. So this is an older bio, but anyway, he's going to come share about this strategy. And I've actually wanted to use it here. He's got students, how many students at Cody's or any other students? And we've got Bryce in there as well, a couple that are here. So he's got a program as well, but why don't you welcome Cody as he comes up here.
Come on, Cody.
All right, brother. Good to see you, man. Yeah. So I think we met at either Michael Blanc's event or
Yeah, that was
met-
probably it.
yeah, or on the summit in Belize. I think we met at one of those. But, awesome, man. Well, I know we've known each other a while, and I just have so much respect for you, what you've accomplished. Why don't you give us a little more like, I mean, I think, obviously there's some tactics that we're going to talk about today of things that you've done, but I think there's a lot of mindset. And I think that, a lot of us, no matter how old we are, I mean, I'm just over 24, 19, 24, just slightly. But sometimes I doubt myself and I doubt how, I can accomplish something great. And so how did you at 19, first of all, make that decision that I'm going to do this? And then how did you continue to show up in a way that allows you to scale up using this unique strategy?
In the beginning, my original goal, I have a Facebook post that I screenshotted. I wanted to get a duplex by 21. And I made that post right before I turned 19 years old. I was going to community college. Someone on the internet that I never met messaged me and said, hey, you should drop out of college. Quit your gymnastics coaching job, because I've done gymnastics for over a decade now.
Okay.
And he's like, you should quit that and come work for me and you'll make a bunch of money. And 6 months after joining him, I made no money. But my parents were thinking I told you so because I listened to some goober on the internet. And 3 months after that, I did what every 19-year-old does that makes no money. And I bought a 12-plex, zero money down, seller financed in Washington State, which is not exactly the cheapest area to buy. But
So how did you tell us how you pulled that off?
There's a lot of space.
there's a lot of, well, I mean,
I think we're done talking. We got everything.
a lot happened in those 3 months.
Yeah.
But
Tell us.
while I was making no money as a real estate agent, I had nobody that I knew in the space other than the people that were in this office. No family, no friends. There was another agent in the office. He got his license and made 40,000 in the first month. And then the month after that made 20,000. And I eventually learned that the owner of the brokerage was just handing him leads. But one of the leads was for a seller financed 22-unit deal in Central Washington. And it was going to be low money down, cash flow, about $6,000 a month. And that was for that deal, it was 20% down. So it was like 300,000 down.
Okay.
But $6,000 a month on 300,000 down is a pretty good ROI.
That's not bad.
And so it was in this little place called Moses Lake, never heard of it. 3 hours from where I grew up, little town called Tacoma. And Tacoma's not a nice area to live for those who are familiar with
It's
Washington.
got the aroma of Tacoma, right?
Yeah, it smells so bad. But I had no business looking in a place called Moses Lake. Never heard of it, never been there. And the client that got handed off, his name was Vlad. He was going to buy it with zero money down. He was going to borrow the down payment. I didn't know what that meant. He was going to borrow it with hard money, 12% interest, and it was still going to cash flow. Thousands a month. I was like, what do you mean? So it broke down the math, and I was super introverted at the time. Didn't really understand all the math on real estate, didn't understand how to communicate with people. But the agent broke it down, why it made sense. And the person who was going to lend him the down payment, they got into a little argument. And so that person said, well, and this was the owner of the brokerage, was like, what if you bought it? And I said, well, I have about 300,000 reasons I can't buy it. I don't have any money. And he said, well, what if I lend it to you? And you'll cash flow a few $1,000 a month. It'll be zero down and that'll be a cool story. So I said, let's do it. But the problem is the seller didn't accept it. Didn't want to do it.
Why not?
He'd been strung out by the previous buyer.
Oh.
But, so that deal went away. I thought I was just gonna get this golden ticket in my lap, fully funded. And,
How would you like one of those, right?
Still haven't gotten one.
Money.
Yeah, still-
Okay.
Still haven't gotten it, but I heard about a couple things. You can buy real estate with no money down. People can lend you the down payment. You don't have to partner with them. Seller financing. As soon as I heard about that, I looked on the MLS, seller financing, and there was only a couple deals that were there, but there was a 12-plex listed. So I called them up, said, hey, I just had a 22 unit fall apart. And which was true. It just wasn't mine to fall apart. And I saw that it's listed with seller financing. What do you want? And I got it under contract and closed it 45 days later. But in the process, that timeline, it was about a week. I looked up books on seller financing, and there's a book called Deals on Wheels by Lonnie Scruggs. It is about mobile homes and micro transactions.
Yeah.
That was very important for the initial mindset of figuring out, oh, I can buy something for cheap and sell it to someone else if there's terms involved. What are the terms? Oh, they're all made up. And so that started my journey.
Yeah, so there's a lot there to unpack too, is that people that aren't familiar with seller financing, a seller agrees to say, hey, without a bank loan, I'll just kind of carry this for you, create a note that's whatever, 5, 6, 10, whatever percentage you negotiate that. So it's all negotiated. So you become good at negotiating these kind of things. Why would a seller want to do that over selling it to somebody for cash or with a bank note?
It depends on the asset size, and there's different reasons for stuff you would buy versus the stuff that I'm buying. So I started with a 12-plex, then I bought a 12, then a 6, then a 38. If it's under $10 million, the reason they're likely going to do it is because they have it paid off and they'd like to help the next generation, regardless of age. They'd like to help the next set of investors get into the game on something they couldn't buy traditionally. They do get tax benefits from it, but people don't sell for that. They typically sell to help out the next generation. On the type of stuff that you're buying, that's the only feasible exit without paying massive amounts of taxes. Nobody's offering it either. You just have to 1031. And if you were to sell your whole portfolio, 1031ing a $200 million deal,
Right.
that gets really painful if you mess it up. So
Yeah, no, there's ways to do it. It's interesting. So how many of you guys were here when Wes was here? My cousin was here. He talked about, he started with a duplex and worked his way up. So he had this strategy where he would basically identify the new property first, get that under contract. And so he's 1031 to net worth of 40 million, or
Yep.
like it's crazy stuff. But so seller finance, people do it, and we've had conversations about this. People say they do it for tax reasons, but really it's because they're busy, they don't want to manage, maybe they want to help the next generation. And it's like, hey, so an example might be, hey, I'll sell this to you, you pay me 10K a month, and
Right.
and then you get an option to buy it in 2 years, and that time you can renovate and when
yeah, it's a balloon payment.
Yeah, you basically will refinance at that time to get them out of there.
Yeah, and for those who aren't familiar with seller financing, it's more applicable if there's low debt. So there's a promissory note and a deed of trust typically. Those are going to be your financing instruments. You can do a real estate contract, and there's some creative clauses in there. But the main issue that most people face with seller financing is most commercial notes have a due on sale clause. Same with residential notes. So if they owe $1 million, you have to clear title when you're transacting if you're doing good business. And so you'd have to clear the $1 million. If there's low to no debt, they can accept whatever payment schedule they want because they don't have a bank to answer to. So if you find someone that has a lot of equity, then that's where you can get really creative with your terms.
Right, so some of these folks, a lot of them will own stuff outright versus, have you done any of the PACE mortgage subject to stuff where it's somebody, like I have a loan on the property, and then you just kind of pick up the loan payments. Have you done any of that stuff as well?
No, there's absolutely no reason to do that. And the type of real estate you're going to do that on is either small garbage properties, or you're doing it because you have a mezzanine lender on a commercial debt that can refinance you before it gets called due.
I see.
That's the only reason you would do it, because you can get higher leverage on a refi than you can on purchase sometimes.
Right, okay, so I want to spell, I know you probably have some questions too, you want to jump in, because I'm just excited to have a conversation with Cody. And you guys join, this is good, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have questions too, so take note of your questions. So let's get a little more into the and you kind of maybe it's just a natural thing for you. Have you always had a mindset of oh, if somebody else is like, I can do whatever, like there's just no limit? Or is there something, did you ever need any doubts in the middle of this? Like,
I had to
what you're doing
overcome a
here?
lot. Yeah, I grew up as an
Me too.
introvert. A lot of people seem to do that in real estate.
Yeah.
But I was the type of kid where I would be hungry. I'd be at a McDonald's with my mom. And she'd be like, here's $3, go order chicken nuggets. And I'd say, I'm not hungry anymore because I don't want to talk to the cashier.
That was me as a kid. There's a story, my mom said the exact same thing, where it's like, if it had that happen, where it's like, oh, go get some more food. And you're like, I don't want to do it.
No, I'm the
Yeah.
opposite. I'd be all over that.
Like chicken nuggets. like-
I was afraid.
Brownies.
brownies.
$2 goods and brownies all day long.
I was afraid to order. So came a long way. There was a lot of transformation in that over the last few years. So I didn't know what I was doing and made mistakes along the way, learned a lot. And being willing to make mistakes has really helped me get to where I'm at.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question. So you did competitive gymnastics, I'm assuming? When you said you're a
No.
gymnast.
No, so I've been doing gymnastics and parkour for like 15 years. Yeah,
That's like the free running where you do flips off buildings. and all
Yeah.
that type of stuff. Yeah. Okay.
still never broken a bone, but I've got some scars.
Yeah, they have a place on the roof you can kind of jump around.
I mean.
No, we can't.
Yeah.
Sign the waiver.
Reason I'm asking is because gymnastics has a high level of discipline to it. And there's a lot of discipline that's necessary in order to take a lot of risk.
Yeah.
If you're doing both, if you're doing beam, if you're doing uneven bars, or even the bars that the men do, I don't know what those are called.
Parallel bars.
Parallel bars. My daughter
Not
does,
even bars, yeah.
well, my daughter didn't do parallel bars, right? She did the uneven bars because
Yeah.
I've got a girl. The thing that I've noticed about gymnastics that I'm gonna, like, this leading to my question is, it has in it a high level of risk with a high level of discipline. And I'm wondering if any of that you felt like fed into why do you have that inner stamina, that inner willingness at a young age to go, you know what? I can do this because I know what high level of risk and high level of discipline looks like.
The reason I felt comfortable doing what I was doing, I mean, maybe it was tied to that, but my business strategy wasn't revolving around buying real estate. It was revolving around learning from people that bought real estate. So what I did in the beginning and what I still do to buy properties is I find a big roof on Google Maps, and the philosophy is very simple. If
This
it's,
is the secret sauce
Okay,
here,
come on,
guys.
guys, take notes.
This is
take
it.
notes.
He's like giving away his whole,
That's
like,
right.
yeah.
This is all I
so
do.
This is
Go,
it.
go
Yeah.
for it, Cody.
if it's a bigger roof, it's more likely to be an apartment building than a smaller roof. That was the whole thought. And if it's a small roof, it's probably a house. So figure out where are the big roofs, who owns the big roofs, and I get coffee with them. And that was it.
So let's back that for a second, because we had this conversation. I was like, how are you doing this? He's like, I find the big roofs. I'm like, it's like. I look on Google Maps, and how many of you guys use Google Maps? Find the big roofs, and then I put the address, I click on, it, I put the address into Google. And I say, who's the owner? And in California, for the reason, it's harder to do in California.
It is.
But in Washington, and other states, you can actually see who the owners, their phone numbers is listed there, or the entity, and then you go to open corporates lists LLCs. That's a little other secret as well. Sorry, I'm giving away your secrets here, but.
There's no secrets.
There's no secrets, yes. So anyway, and then he would call and he would say, hey, my name's Cody. I noticed you own this place over here. I own a 12 unit over there. He's like, I'd love to have a conversation with you and hear about your success. Would you bet for coffee? How many of you would love to get a call like that? Somebody wants to hear about your success, and it's a so he's not saying, hey, let's tell me your thing or what, he's just saying, hey, I'd love to, it's relational. It's, hey, how can I learn? And somebody who has, I've noticed this when people are early in their career, they're wanting to get, but there's a group that's further along in their career. And or maybe they're closer, they want to get back. They want to actually, and who doesn't want to tell a story about their life, right? So I'm sure you've listened to some long stories. Let me tell you, when I was your age, I was doing this. That was a few of those, right?
Yeah.
So in the middle of that, tell us like what that led to from just those conversations of you being interested in somebody's life.
Yeah, so I've learned a lot from a lot of people, and that's what's given me the confidence to move forward, even when I didn't have any money or any real estate. You hear all these stories of people that did exactly the same thing, and you realize, I'm not unique. There's just a lot of people doing this that you don't see online. And they told me about their business strategy. One of them sat me down in their truck and drove around and spent a couple hours and drove their whole portfolio. And it was nice because they had the butt massagers in their truck. A different level of money than me.
Wow.
But they said, Cody, the richest people on planet Earth are developers. And they're the richest people until they can't finish their projects. And then they're the brokest people. And so what you need to do is build your cash flow and then get into development and make sure your development doesn't get you over your skis on your cash flow.
Yeah.
Make the money, build to sell, and then take your profit, pay off the apartments. And then build to sell, get some cash, build to sell, get some cash, build to keep, and then get to the point where you can start building in cash. So that's what he did. So he got to 40 apartments and then he started building to sell. And within 5 years, he had no debt. And that created my whole business model of figure out how much equity you need in real estate. If you want to make 600 grand a year, get $10 million of equity, paying you 6%. So get $10 million of property and then do a $10 million flip and pay it off. And yes, it's that simple. It's not that easy, but that's exactly what he did with his 40 apartments. And then he got to the point in his career where he was building to keep with debt and eventually paid off the debt. And that's about where I met him at that point in his career. So he wanted to get rid of the old stuff, sell me the old stuff. That's what I bought. And since he builds to keep in cash, I am now buying his brand new stuff. Seller finance, 10% down, non-recourse, and it works.
So I want to share something here that a lot of people don't
Because
understand.
he's looking for cash flow
Mhm.
and he's looking to develop a portfolio where he feels like he's better positioned, less trouble, easier units to take care of. He built them himself. And now he's got you paying him cash flow on buildings he's already paid off.
Yep.
So he's literally developing his own cash flow portfolio by being the bank. And he's given Cody perfect assets that are performing and working, I assume.
Yes.
So this is where a lot of us, like, this is what I love about the strategy, because we'll say like, I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't buy a building for somebody. How could I, like, there's no way to do that. But the better question is, how can I do that? Right? And so, and even before all that, this is a very relational, you see the relational side of what he's doing. He's having a conversation. He's tell me what you did. I think he's the guy sharing all the strategy. I mean, I'd say there's as much or more value in the relationship of you hearing those stories of a guy that, this guy's probably in his 60s, I'd imagine, or 50s.
No, he's in his 50s.
His 50s.
He was in his late 40s when I met him.
Right. So, but to be young, and no matter what age we are, by having those conversations, we're learning. We're learning from people. We talk about the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now he's got a relationship with somebody like this. If he needs to close something, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. What do you think? Whatever. Well, the guy's gonna have 10 ideas and maybe have money and have have all these ideas, right? So those are very valuable connections. And then secondly, when he learns about what this guy's goals are, there's an alignment of interest. Oh, hey, well, I'm trying to do this. And well, I gotta get rid of these ones. Well, why don't you buy? It's kind of a very natural thing, right? So if you're likable, Warren Buffett says 2 things. We only work with people that we like and we trust. So if you go have lunch with somebody or coffee with somebody and you hear their story and you're interested and you let them share and you're getting from it, you think somebody values that, that's a likable trait, right? And if they trust you, you come across trustworthy, you're trying to create a solution. So I love what you did, because you're not just doing a transaction. A broker often will do a transaction in sales. I sold medical widgets, not widgets, but I sold medical stuff, and I would sell stuff and it would kind of be like, okay, well, that's what it is. But this was a long-term, you probably keep in touch with a lot of these folks because they become mentors and friends. So people sell, is it typically because they have other goals they're doing, or are they too busy? Or maybe you can talk into some reasons why people would want to, go into that conversation, why they would want to sell you a property.
Well, there's a point where people have more money than they have time, and there's not enough people asking for help. There's people looking to give help, but no one's asking them. And so if you can be that person for them, then you get a lot of opportunities other people don't. And I found that to be consistently true, as I haven't bought more than 3 buildings from any one individual. So every single time it's from different people. And I'm just doing the same thing over and over. And to the extent that you can keep things simple, it becomes repeatable. So I'm just meeting with people, figuring out what they're trying to do, where they're coming from, where they're going, and what changes when they get there. As a result, get opportunities.
Yeah. And you're not, the other thing I want to say about this is you're not, I imagine you're not just coming up and saying, oh, hey, I want to help you. That sounds
Not
like
at all.
people that come up to me and like, hey, I want to help. And I'm like, great. Like, it doesn't really mean anything. to me.
Yeah, you got 200 million in real estate.
Yeah, like,
How is someone with no real estate?
Yeah, like, I don't, how, like, but if someone's like, hey, I thought about your business, I imagine this might be an issue for you, how are you solving this? They ask a bunch of intelligent questions to understand my business. They're like, oh, it sounds like you're really busy and it looks like you're kind of shifting over here. Is there a way that I could be helpful either by me doing something in this space or bringing someone else in? Like, that's a really helpful conversation.
Yeah.
So again, there's a lot of, they talk about like IQ and EQ. You guys know about, intelligence quotient and there's emotional quotient that they see a lot of times these think it was just intelligence. But I mean, really smart people that are very poor or really smart people that really haven't done much with their life. And then there's people that they're just intuitive, like they don't have the qualifications. There's never like, but they just, they're like just Mr. or Miss Gumption. They walk, they just know exactly what to say, exactly what to do, whatever, because they can read the room, because they can talk to people. So that's where some of this personal development or emotional work is really powerful too. Can you talk, we're gonna do some questions in a little bit too, but I want to hear more about mindset and how you you talked about there's been some transformation that happened. What were some of those shifts along the way that happened for you and what caused those?
Something I heard from one of the people, I mean, if I said their name, nobody here would know them. They were just an individual I found on Google Maps. And something that they shared with me is that my ability to build wealth is directly limited by my ability to, over long periods of time, manage cash flow. So if you can't manage positive cash flow for periods of time, you will be stuck where you're at. And you cannot outscale that. And so I realized it just comes down to making sure that I map out how do I improve cash flow globally. And there's only a couple ways to do it. That you can either improve the asset by getting new income or less expenses, or borrow cheaper money or borrow less money. And those were the only 4 ways you can improve cash flow. And when I realized that, it made my universe quite simple. If there's only 4 ways to scale through the cash flow front, then that's all I have to learn.
So it was improve cash flow.
Well,
What are the 4 ways?
Well, the 4 ways you can improve cash flow, there's 2 categories. You can optimize the real estate or optimize the debt. Optimizing the real estate looks like improving the income or decreasing the expenses. Optimizing the debt is borrowing cheaper money or borrowing less money. Those are the only options. There's nothing else you can do in real estate to make money.
On the building that you have.
Yeah, that's the only way you make more money on your portfolio. You either increase income, decrease expenses, or you borrow cheaper money or borrow less money. That is the only way you can do
You're
it.
dropping some nuggets here, man. I see people just like, there's like steam coming off of some people's like taking notes here. It's amazing. So a couple, I have many questions, as you can tell, but so I guess a question, application question. If I'm listening to this, I'm in California, there's some challenges of doing this here because we even tried, I was kind of messing around with this. I'm gonna have my assistant set a bunch of, get to find the owners, whatever. Well, it's harder to find owners here because it's not as public and things are guarded. If you didn't own any real estate or you had maybe you had some small stuff, but you're looking to do more of this type of thing, would you do it here or would you do it out of state?
It depends on your goals. Some people like to drive their own real estate. And I know people that have got 1,000 units, low leverage in LA. There are people winning in every market. They don't have partners. They didn't syndicate. It's just them. So you can win in any market, but it has to revolve around cash flow. And there's a little formula that I learned when I got really sick with COVID a couple of years ago. And so I was bedridden with my computer. And I'm a math guy, so I get bored on Excel. And I was trying to figure out, well, how do people make money with debt and real estate? And there's 2 things that differentiate the winners and the losers. And you have to know these 2 terms. You got a cap rate and a factor rate. Most people know what a cap rate is, but they don't know what a factor rate is. And if you know those 2 things, you can make money on any deal. It doesn't matter, as long as it's a positive income producing piece of real estate.
Okay, so explain it. So
Explain-
cap rate.
explain- Yeah.
Cap rate is if you own for cash, this is the percent, let's just say 100K house or something.
Sure.
You're making, you paid cash, you're making 5K a year, that's a 5 cap.
It's your cash on cash return when you pay cash. Now, the thing most people don't understand is you're paying cash for every deal you buy, whether it's your money or a loan. And so what I was trying to quantify back then, which I didn't get, this was very important for me as I was growing in this, is, okay, so I'm always paying cash. What's the cost of capital? And most people look at an interest rate, but that's irrelevant because is it interest only? Is it amortized? you gotta know these things. And so what I found is this term called a factor rate, and that's your true cost of capital.
Have you heard of this term before, this factor rate? I've honestly, I don't know if I may have heard it, but I did
Yeah.
explain, yeah, please.
So your factor rate, it's important to know the equation, but it's more important to know what it is. So if you write down the equation, it's your annual principal and interest divided by the loan amount. And so you can refer back to that equation, but what it expresses is if I've got $1 million loan and it's at 6% interest, I have 60,000 a year in interest. My cost of capital with interest only is 6%. I need to buy higher than a 6 cap because those are my cap rates and dividends. And the cost of capital is the cost. And if I'm doing this with no money, I should probably make more than I spent. That was the thought
So
process.
it's like a break even number.
Yep.
If you're above this, then
Yeah.
yeah, gotcha.
But most people look at interest rate when they should look at factor rate because your factor rate includes your actual principal pay down. Just go on Google, it's really quick. Mortgage calculator, take that number times 12, that's your annual principal and interest. On a 30-year AM, your cost of capital for $1 million loan at 6% is 72,000. That's just the number. It's like 71,900 something bucks. So your factor rate is 7.19 while your interest rate is 6. So some people say, well, I'll borrow at 6 and I'll buy a 6 cap and I'll break even. You actually lose 1.19% on every dollar you borrow. And that's why you have to put 40% down in Cali and 20% down in Indiana because your cap rate is lower than your true cost of capital.
Mhm.
If you can map that out, you can get loans no one else can get because you can explain this intelligently to your lender. And as long as you know these numbers, you could buy on a 1 cap, $100 million deal, 0.5% interest only, and you'll cash flow 500 grand a year. You did. If you got 100 years on your note, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. So for those who are taking notes, if all you do is make sure your cap rate's higher than your factor rate, that equation, you will win in real estate. Period.
How many you getting some out of this? Good. This is
So
great.
look at
Yeah,
factor rate as soon as we get
Yeah,
out.
I'm gonna like, yeah.
Me too. No,
So I know you said you're a math guy, and just
Nice.
as a side note, I went to a mastermind that talked a lot about AI.
Yeah.
Anybody using AI regularly? AI like ChatGPT? This guy was saying that, you know, he asked this question, this is a little, again, I think this would be valuable to people, but so what are the things that matter most in your life, in your family, in your health, your goals, things you want to accomplish? What are the biggest challenges of those things? And he said, what if you had someone like let's say you had another brain to help solve these? And if you test ChatGPT right now, it tests at 155 IQ, which is a 1 in 10,000 person IQ. So it's not a person, but you can use it like another brain. So he's like, we should be spending 30 to 60 minutes a day just asking questions, trying to figure out how to, at times it's a little bit loopy if you've asked questions, ChatGPT, it's wrong, but to try to like ideate around this stuff. Have you found any ways to use it? You can use with equations and factor rates and teach you different things. Or do you use this in your business at all or using?
I haven't.
Haven't, okay.
Yeah, I don't, like, I'm not a tech guy, so it's there. I'd probably be better for it, but I just keep it simple. If you can map it out on a piece of paper, which you should be able to do for all businesses, and if you can't, it's probably not worth getting into. I just try and map it on a paper, and dividends should be higher than your cost, and you know, it's simple as that.
So the more you do this too, I know that to be 24, just turned 24, when's your birthday?
December.
December, okay, happy birthday. A few months ago, I guess. But you walk into a bank, you know,
Yeah.
you said you dress casually, you don't like, but you would dress casually, you walk in and you're explaining factor rate to bankers, I imagine, or lenders about how this stuff works. So they're probably like,
I just let them know that the deal's
Yeah.
going to work and this is
Yeah.
why.
yeah,
And they're okay with that.
yeah.
But I only have done it for refinances. I haven't done it for any purchases because I've never purchased through a bank.
Right.
Yeah.
You're doing seller finance.
Yeah.
Just more.
So, yeah, there was a moment there where we said that's a big distance to cover between your first building, right? And feeling like you had what you needed to be able to start making these phone calls.
Yep.
There was big growth curve there for you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it comes with one deal at a time and you make some mistakes and you learn and mature as an investor. So right now, I'm of a different mindset than I was when I was beginning. And that's, in the beginning, I did map this out, but there's 4 stages in business. You've got your build phase, stabilization phase, optimization phase, and then for us, debt payoff. We hammer the debt. And so that came out of learning from investors that are way farther than I am. And even people with, a B instead of an M on their net worth sheet, they all said, you should pay off your debt eventually. So originally I thought, oh, I should lever forever.
Mhm.
I met at that event we met at, I met with Robert Kiyosaki, and he's a proponent for levering for a long period of time, but majority of people in practical application actually pay off their stuff. And so I had some adulting to do and some growing to do when I started learning from people that were actually winning in business. And some of my goals started changing over time. Just as I met with a lot of different investors, I used to have a goal, I want to make this amount of cash flow per month.
Mhm.
And I never quantified, well, I want to make this amount of cash flow with this little involvement in the business, and setting goals around my involvement in the organization. And so as I started meeting with more and more people, I realized they may be making the same amount of money as others or a little bit less, but they would work maybe 1% of the time that the other person would work. And that was more freeing than anything, because that's what most people get into business for, is to have the time back, and then they get stuck to a job managing tons of assets.
And if I may, Cody, because I want to jump on that, because that is to me a lesson that I see in my consulting work in my older clients. They're like, our goals become things like, how do I pay my buildings off? How do I know I have a steady income? Or they start hoarding cash on the side because they're really not interested in having all their money in one basket or all their money in one building. And it is hard, something that's almost harder to explain to a younger investor, where it's like, no, leverage, leverage, leverage. And it's like, yeah, badly leveraged buildings is how 2006, 7, and 8 happened. It was the leverage that created that downturn. And when you live through that downturn, you start to appreciate, what does it mean to keep 40% down on a building or 50% down on a building?
Yeah.
Right? The choice to have certain buildings that are paid off in its entirety, so the cash flow is, the portfolio as a whole decides what, brings in a higher level of return, because I've got 3 out of my 5 or 6 buildings, I've got 2 of those paid off free and clear. Those were always going to work. Those are going to help the other buildings survive if there's a downturn, if the rents go down. So it's fascinating that you took that on at 24 or 22 or 23 versus I usually see it at 60.
Yeah.
Right?
And one distinction,
We're just to talk a little bit louder, I think, for all of
Okay.
us, so just.
I can do
Yeah,
that.
it's probably, I don't know, I was probably talking too softly.
One thing I learned that was really important, LTV is not how you quantify being over leveraged.
Just
Right.
loan to value for
Yeah.
those.
So if you got $1 million property and 600 grand in loans, you're 60% LTV. You would just take it's just a function of your debt and your equity with the asset. But most people quantify being over leveraged with the loan to value. And right now I keep my stuff right around 60. I've got a bunch of stuff under 60 and some stuff around 65. So every $1 million of property got about 600,000 in debt. But that's not how you quantify being over leveraged in real estate. That is directly tied to your cash flow and when your debt is due. So if you're cash flowing 100 grand a month, but all your debt is due in 6 months and your rate's going to go from 2.5 to 7, you probably over leveraged. But it comes down to this thing called debt coverage ratio. So if you got 10,000 a month in payments and 15,000 a month in NOI, it means every other month you save a whole mortgage payment. And so even for those who are getting started, you don't have a lot of money. Maybe go buy a seller finance deal and they're financing 90% of the purchase. Most traditional real estate investors are going to say, oh, you're over leveraged. That must be so dangerous. And you're going to lose. That only if your debt's coming due or you're negative cash flowing. So if you write these notes where you have long-term fixed rate mortgages, 7, 10, 15, 20 years, your mortgage is going to stay the same. You have a good amount of positive cash flow. Maybe your mortgage is $5 grand a month and your net operating income is 8. You've got enough margin there. It doesn't matter if you're 90%, doesn't matter if you're 100% leveraged, as long as you have a long window and significant debt coverage. And that's a big mistake I see a lot of people make as well, as they quantify it with the LTV.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Cody.
We have a
Okay.
question online.
Oh, great. Yeah, let's take it.
Can you repeat the equation for the factor rate
Yeah.
and how that's important?
Yeah.
One of the most, go for it.
Why it's important, your factor rate is your true cost of capital. And that is, if you look at your loan, if you're buying a piece of real estate, if your factor rate is 7.2%, doesn't matter if it's interest only or if it is amortized, that's the cost of the money. And so you want your dividends to be higher than that, and your cap rate is your dividend expressed as a percentage. Your factor rate is your cost of capital expressed as a percentage, and the equation is your annual loan payments. So if you go on mortgage calculator on Google and you figure out, okay, my payment is $7,000 a month, your annual payments would be $84,000 a month. Divide that by the loan amount. That's your true cost of capital.
Yeah, so you just want to be positive. So if you're negative cash flow, that's a problem, right? Unless you just want to be feeding it every month.
Yep.
But if you're positive, then
Yeah.
obviously that's a deal.
And that is the reason, most people didn't know how to quantify it, but that's the reason most syndicators did okay in the last few years. They were buying 4% cap rate deals, but they were getting 10-year fixed at 2.75% IO. Meaning that their total cost of capital was 2.75%. And their dividends were 4%, so they make 1.25% on so many millions of dollars.
Cash flow.
They were happy.
And let me ask a quick question, then you can open it up again. So one of the other things I've seen often happens is people don't really estimate their net operating income very well.
Yeah.
Right, so what do you do to make sure that you have what you thought is implementable, like a real life net operating income?
Well, I like to look at utility bills for one. So I'll look at utility bills. I'll talk with an insurance broker to figure out what my insurance premium should be. Those have jumped up a lot. You should definitely be chatting about that before you go into contract. It's just important because it's way different than it used to be. Taxes will go up, so it depends on your state. In Washington, I take about 1% of my purchase price. And I budget for that in 2 years, because it's not going to jump all the way right away. And then other than that, maintenance, usually budget $100 a unit per month. Figure out who's going to manage it and what their costs are, and don't just think about it's X% of the rents. You're also going to have lease up fees. You're also going to have renewal fees. So whatever that average is for my market, it's a $200 renewal fee, a $500 placement fee. And so you should budget for some of that, because people are going to leave your rentals. They're not going to, even if they love the building, they're not going to stay there forever. So I just try and budget for everything I think is reasonable, but I'm not going to underwrite my way out of a deal. A lot of people are doing that right now. They're like, oh, it's got to be 45% expenses and 10% vacancy. And they kill every deal they look at.
Okay.
When in my market, the average cost, including vacancy, is 37% for mid-sized deals. So I look at the average, and then I do my own underwriting, and I'm not going to usually beat the average, but I try and see if it makes sense for that market. And if it doesn't, I ask bigger investors for help underwriting.
That's what I was asking.
And that's one way you can get your deals funded, by the way. If you've got a deal and you're working on getting the down payment, you got the deal, and then you got the debt. That's the right order of operations, by the way. Do deal, then debt, then equity. If you're trying to figure out the equity down, bring it to other investors you met and be like, hey, I got this deal I'm working on. Would you help me underwrite it? And if you know that it's actually a good deal, they'll probably come to the same conclusion. Be like, well, what are you doing for the down payment? Well, I'm still figuring that out. And we've had, my buddy and I have had people fund our deals that way.
So let's just, if you find the deal first, you feel like this is a good deal. Then you find the debt, so a lender agrees with you this is a good deal, or that they're gonna, or the seller, or whoever's gonna do it. Then you start talking, oh, I got this deal, but how are you gonna fund it? Well, I'm not quite sure, whatever. And then, well, hey, I got some money, or I know somebody's got some money.
And I just let them know the plan. Well, I lined up the deal, 14 units, and I got really good debt terms from the seller that you can't get today. Things are at 7, I got it at 4. And I think it's going to cash flow about $4,000 a month because of these debt terms, and I have it fixed for 15 years. My plan is to bring in an equity partner, and they usually ask, do you have that person picked out yet? No, still deciding. And if they do like the deal and the location, then more often than not, they'll offer to fund it.
That's amazing. And he's like still deciding, like you have this whole list of 20 that are just like in your back pocket, where you're like figuring it out. You see, even that's there's strategy there. You're basically just kind of letting people know. And I mean, there's a way to do this that the way successful people, after doing a number of transactions and having 200 units, like he's gonna intuit things. After a while, you just get better at it because you just know, you have a lot more experience than a lot of people you're working with now.
Yeah.
And so you're coming in, even though people might underestimate you because you're young, which is probably a good thing. Well, it's good that you're young, but it's good that they'll underestimate you, and then you'll come in and you'll just, oh, what about this, whatever, and just, kind of a nonchalant, but you're really like, exactly
Yeah.
what you want.
I know where the goalposts are, and most people don't map those out, so they're shooting wherever. And something I heard from one of my first mentors was you need to map out the goalposts. If they shift, you can adjust your business, but that's what I've been aiming for. I know what I want.
What are your goalposts?
Right now, I'm actually selling stuff, and I'm gonna pay the taxes and pay off the debt.
Okay.
So I mentioned the business cycle of you do your build phase, which is you go acquire the portfolio that gets you what you want. You stabilize it to consistent income and expenses. You optimize it to highest and best use, and then you pay it off. And so originally my goal was 100 units. That has changed. I just wanted 800 units. Now I want 100 brand new units built within the last 5-10 years.
Because of maintenance and.
Because of maintenance, and maintenance is obnoxious.
Yeah.
And
Yes, it is.
so I got 200 units, and I personally have like 6.5 million in debt. So I'm just doing deals that can make me $1 million each net of taxes, flip it, pay off the taxes, or pay off the debt within 7 deals, and have a free and clear portfolio.
Yeah.
And so I'm selling down some of the stuff. I don't need 200 units. I need 100 for the goal. So I'm doing everything I can to consciously move towards 100 units. So I'm working on buying 25 units right now, seller financed, that are brand new.
So you can see too, like in this, there's a strategy here, and strategy can change. But it's like you said, I was using debt, even kind of like, oh, I was doing this, now I'm trying to do it and there's a lot of listening, like he's listening to people that are further along. And this is kind of why they're doing this. And there's even like the development side. Okay, I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna sell these, move it into development, or try to pay for this cash and do it in a very safe way. Because obviously you want to earn it and you want to keep it, you want to have that,
How do you buy it and how do you never lose it? Most people are like, oh, I can go buy this and I can make my fee, but they don't build a business model around being able to hold it forever.
Mhm.
And if you can't hold it forever, what's it worth? Whatever the market's willing to pay.
Yeah.
If you can hold it forever, it's worth whatever cash flows to you.
Yeah, let's take some questions. I
Yeah,
know we have
let's
some
take some
questions here. Some of you guys came a long way from New York and
In the
San
back
Diego.
there.
Yeah, please, yeah.
So I don't have a question, I more have a problem, right? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of seller finance deals. But a lot of people I approach always said the same thing. Like, cause we calculate everything by 30 year. And people who's able to do seller finance always tells me, Sonny, I don't have 30 years left.
Okay.
So they want to shorten the term to at least like 15 to 5 years. Like how, am I doing something wrong? How
Nope.
like,
That's typical. So
Yeah.
you're gonna have what's called a balloon. So it could be on a 30-year amortization or whatever amortization, could be interest only. But at that 5-year mark, 7-year mark, 15-year mark, whatever they need, you have to refinance it or pay them off.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because, and then what you're doing, and maybe this would work as well, is if there's some value to add, so you're getting a place often that maybe some of these places you could renovate, or you could do some work on it over the next few years. And then when it's time in 5 years, then you refinance and you
Yep.
refinance them out at that point.
Yeah, doing some value adds really important. And I was thinking about this on your portfolio. You've got about 200 million,
Yeah.
give or take. What do you think your total purchase price on that portfolio was? Maybe like 130, 140 or
Right.
less?
Yeah, I'd have to check. It's probably less than that.
Yeah, so just because you got a certain amount of assets doesn't mean that's what you paid for it. So and even in Bronson's case, if he bought it for 120, you got to be worth 200, he could get a loan for 120 and keep it with no money in it. And that's typically what people are doing with these seller finance notes. It's private capital. Seller financing is the cheapest form of private capital, typically. And so
What kind of rates are you seeing now on those? Like,
some are 3, some are 6. My highest is 7, but it's all deal specific. If the cost of capital is 7% interest only and you can get it to be a 15 cap, you make 8% margin on every dollar you borrow, it still works.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
yeah.
Did that help? Is that good?
Yeah.
To put a little flesh and blood on that, you know what your timeline is for paying it off? So
What?
you know what your timeline is. You're seller financing, on
Yeah,
it's
I have
5
a
years.
couple of 10-year deals.
Right?
Great.
Okay, great. 10 years is even better. So you now know what the target is for getting the building to perform at a certain level when that note comes due, so that you can get the debt to coverage ratio you need to refinance it.
But it's amortized for 10 years, so I just have a
Oh.
high monthly payment.
I wouldn't do that. I would amortize it over 30.
Yeah, you
and double
amortize
it.
it over 30, but you have it due as a balloon
Yeah.
in 5 to 10.
Okay.
That's where you adjust
So
that.
if you had $1 million loan, amortized over 30 years, maybe you owe like 800 grand.
Yeah.
Or 750, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I
You just have to get a
understand.
new loan.
But yeah, it's just hard to find people like that. Usually it's like, from my experience, it's usually people who's retiring and want to get rid of their properties.
And they can get rid of their property. But if you have it amortized over 30 years, you make your payment, you pay it down a little bit, you refinance it, they get the rest of it later.
You ever do it where just like, I mean, you mentioned examples where somebody's like, okay, this is, let's say the cash flow is 15K a month, and then you say, hey, I'll pay you 10K a month. And then with an option to buy, so it's not even really like
I don't prefer to do lease options, and I don't prefer to do, there's different ways to do it. You can do it with an option agreement and a management contract, which is essentially the same way on commercial. I'm not a fan of that. I like to trade title to where
You own it.
I own it. That's important to me.
Is it, how can that go bad if, I guess, somebody come back later and say, well,
If you're on title or
no,
if you're not.
if you don't, if you're not.
You don't on title.
Yeah. Is there more risk there?
There is more risk, because just because a contract says something doesn't mean that they're going to follow it. And if they're bigger than you, this is a big rule I have for real estate. Don't partner with people that can afford to bury you. Been there, done
Stuff
that.
you see on a t-shirt or something.
Yeah, been there, done that. So if you're trusting that they're not going to go further encumber it and tell the lender about the docs, they probably won't, then yeah, you can sue them, but if they're doing a big cash out refi that encumbers the property you were going to buy, and they weren't supposed to do that, they have more money than you. And they can just say F off, which happens.
Does that happen to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
but not that way. It was
Okay.
a different way, but I always take title.
Yeah, so you learned something. I have a question over here. Let's get some more questions.
Hey Cody, thanks for making it up. My name is Nick. An obvious pain point when you're talking that I could tell is maintenance.
Yeah.
Sounds like that is something that people don't understand when buying a property. I'm a real estate agent. I help out first time home buyers and they're always like, Nick, I want to get the nastiest property at my first property. And I just want to fix it up. I was like, all right, well, how much money you got? 30 grand, you know? So during this process, if you kind of pull the curtain back on how you got money, you bought an asset, seller financing, you didn't have a lot of money, and it's a huge asset with a ton of maintenance.
Yeah.
Where are you getting the, like, where's the grind on getting the money to fix these units up, or even just keep them afloat and keep
Yeah.
these tenants?
Well, that's a good question. And something that someone asked me a while ago, they're like, how do you pay for all this renovation? How do you pay for your debt? With money. And where does the money come from? It's either going to be cash that you have on hand, cash that you borrow, or cash flow. And you can only responsibly borrow so much money. It's limited by your cash flow. And I didn't have any money, so my option was cash flow. So I bought cash flowing real estate that had margin day one.
And you reinvest, that you kind of do them.
All
for a
of
period
it.
Time and
Yeah, and so I've got a decent amount of cash flow today, but I don't pay myself any of it. All of it gets reinvested back in the portfolio. And so in the beginning, I had a little bit of credit card debt. I had to buy refrigerators, so $20,000 on the credit card later, max card, but bought new appliances. And that was my deal with the tenants. You're not paying. Your past landlord sucked. You had no running water and you had no appliances. Here you go. And they started paying. And so I paid off the debt. I turned a cash problem into a cash flow problem. by using the new incomes to pay down the loan that I took on. And now I just fund all the reno out of cash flow.
Very diligent.
If you're,
Thank you.
it's a good plan. So if you're using your money that you're making off your buildings to pour that back into the buildings in order to force appreciation or
Yeah.
to grow them, what are you living on?
So that's actually really important. In the beginning, I was skimping by.
Okay.
We did, and we being my buddy and I've got some solo buildings. Some of my first buildings are just me. And I scaled a lot with my buddy Christian. We did a big cash out refi to where we would have enough money to where we could reinvest the cash flow for a couple of years, not run out of cash.
Okay.
And then we'd be able to pay ourselves cash flow when the portfolio is fixed. And this point is really important. You have to buy deals big enough that can get you a payout within the first couple of years to walk away from your job if you want to be full-time. That's super important. If you're buying deals that are small, I got a $500,000 cash out. That's enough. And I split it with my buddy Christian. So I'm living on savings and reinvesting all the cash flow from the 200 units to fix the portfolio. And as a byproduct, rents are $200 higher than I thought they were going to be and that I underwrote to. And on that many units, that adds up a lot. So we're just reinvesting everything back into the portfolio and living off of cash out from the investments.
A lot of people don't talk about this. I think it's the management of cash flow. And you said you're a math guy, which is good, because this is like, if this is stuff you're not paying attention to, you're not realizing, oh, actually, I'm going negative cash flow, or this is actually not working. And so I think it is a challenge. I think even when times are good to manage cash flow well. Now, a lot of real estate deals, even that were cash flowing, there's some challenge there. And so
Yeah.
we're doing stuff like, alternatives like ATMs and car washes and oil and gas, because it's the cash flow is much stronger in some
Yeah.
ways, but maybe the appreciation isn't quite the same as real estate. We got another question back here.
Thank you, Cody, for sharing all that you did tonight. I have a mountain of questions, so I'm gonna try and think like two that come to my mind. I'm assuming a lot of this model definitely is based on value add multifamily, right? Because if you're gonna take a 30-year AM with a 7-year balloon, you have to have a reasonable exit through some sort of value add component to get that higher cap rate on the exit. Which is why I assume you'd stay away from single family, not only because it's small, but like you can't really, you don't know where the market's gonna be in 7 years, where it's all based on a single family appraisal.
Yep, typically. But there are some pieces of real estate that are not value add that I buy just to lock down a location.
Got it.
And if it cash flows with long-term fixed rate debt, I mean, 7-10 years. If I'm confident that I'm able to refinance within the 7 to 10 year mark, or that I could pull cash out of something else that I own. Like example, I own a 12-plex by myself. I'm buying the 15 unit next to it because it's on the water. And there's no value add. And you're doing a 7-year note. But I know if I needed to, I could pull cash out of the 12 or different assets and pay it off to solidify. I have a couple different exits for the debt. Because you can refinance or you can write a check.
And then as far as like the factor rate, just I guess in simplest terms, kind of going back to it, it's just a measurement of cost of capital
It's your-
versus cap rate.
It's your true cost of capital.
Got it. So long as your cap rate's higher, you're making money.
You make a spread, and that's where returns blow up. Because if you're buying a deal, let's say you're buying it for $10 million. And you're buying it here, so you gotta put 4 million down. Because the cap rate's probably like, what, 5 right now? And your cost of capital is maybe 6.5, so you're losing 1.5 on margin.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
So your cash on cash return is probably like 1 or 2%, really bad.
Yeah.
On a seller finance deal, if you're buying a 5 cap and your true cost of capital is 4%, you make a 1 point spread on every dollar you borrow. And that's where the leverage can get really fun. Leverage sucks eventually in markets like this right now because you're losing money on borrowed money. You can only borrow so much. If you control your cost of capital, you make a 1 point margin, you put 10% down. If it's a 5 cap, you're paying cash for 10% of it. So you make 5% on that down payment, and then you make 1% on the other money. So you make 1% on $9 million in that case, 90 grand in cash flow off the debt, plus your 50 grand in cash flow off the down payment. It's 140,000 to 14% return.
Thank you,
What-
Cody. I've tried to explain that to people before and you just did a beautiful job of explaining
great.
that.
I want to do a quick check-in with you guys. How many of you, so maybe some of us feel like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start this tomorrow. Other people are like, I don't know if I could do this. How many of you are like, I get it, I could start this, I'm gonna start doing something with this?
I can
And
help.
how many of you are like, just seems like a really advanced strategy, it's kind of over my head and I don't know, sounds like a lot. Nobody, okay, everybody's got, I'm just kidding. Yeah, thank you for listening to us. No, I feel like, I feel it's even from my experience, that there's a lot of nuance that you've got with this, that it can be a little intimidating for people.
Let's break it down then.
Yeah.
So everything you want, someone else has. And most people
What's your
say,
hair? Can I have your hair?
Maybe that's the only thing you can't have.
Sorry. Sorry.
I'll trade you my hair for a building.
Okay.
You got something I want too, right?
Probably, I could find something.
All right, so at the bottom line, everybody else, like, they have what you want. And most people set their goals. They want to cash flow X amount, or they want to have X amount of doors. Door count's stupid. Don't set a goal around that. If you want 100 doors because you think you're going to cash flow $100 a unit, just say you want 10 grand a month. So figure out what type of building could cash flow 10 grand a month. I originally want to make 10 grand a month. I bought a 12-plex that made 10 grand a month. And simple stuff. Figure out what you want, and then what is the most efficient path to get there. And once you figure out what type of asset has that, don't go so big that you're gonna blow yourself up. Don't say, well, I'm gonna go buy a 100-unit complex, because that could probably cash flow 10 grand a month. Figure out what is the most efficient path to hit your goal. And if that is a 10-plex or a 12-plex or a 20-unit, look at those types of assets. How could I get to my goal within 2 deals? And then understand that everything trades with money. It's either debt or it's cash. And if you don't have cash, you're gonna borrow it. I had someone come to me, they're like, I wanna buy more real estate. Okay, how much money you got? Well, I got like 20 grand, but I don't wanna borrow money. You're not buying real estate. You have debt or you have equity. Like those are the options. There's nothing else. So you meet with the people that have what you want. You learn how they got it. That's what I did. I met with people that own big roofs. I learned how they got it, and then I repeated the steps. For those that are confused on how to do this, that is how you do it. You learn who has what you want, how they got it, break it down to be very simple, and then you do that.
That makes it sound so simple.
Well, it is simple. To the extent that you can simplify your universe, it's repeatable. That is the
Yeah.
bottom line.
Any more questions? Yeah. we got
Cody, you mentioned earlier today when we were over there, you talked about borrowing other people's money and 3 things that you consider, or
Yeah.
like 3 questions you ask yourself. Can you share that again?
Yeah, there's only 3 things that matter when you're raising money. To actually get the money. There, if there's filings, yeah, you need to do the filings, but the only things people care about is where the money's going, the stability of what backs it, and how they get paid. You map out those 3 things, people will write you stupid checks.
Say it again, Cody.
Where's the money going? What's the stability of what backs it, and how do they get paid? That's it. You could share a lot more than that. But there was a deal, my first hotel I ever bought. And the biggest raise I ever did before that was 300,000. I needed $1 million on this. I'd never done hospitality before. I didn't know how to underwrite hospitality. But I lined up a seller note that made sense for the deal. And one investor funded the whole $1 million within a 7-minute conversation. Because I mapped out these 3 things. Where's it going? Robin Hood Village Resort. Is it stable? It's been in business 87 years. And if it's an apartment building instead of a hotel, it's been around for 40 years. It's probably going to be around another 40. And how are they getting paid back? Then you map out the numbers. You do that, people will write you a check. I had no business raising $1 million for a hotel. Did it anyway, because I mapped those out.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's it.
Question here. Just, I want to dig deeper on a topic you brought up, and we're talking about maintenance and costs and working off cash flow to invest back in, but
Yeah.
things that never happen all the time. Right,
Facts.
so when you're dealing with maintenance, and you're doing that with many buildings, and I get the tone you're going to new, because obviously there's hopefully less maintenance problems, but you're a math guy, right? So how do you really factor in for surprises? Because surprises are surprises. And it's a real challenge when something big comes along. It can sink you. And like, if you're new and you have a 12 unit or 20 unit, if there's a hole in the roof for those big roofs you're talking about, you can be done. And also, for example, there's a hidden enemy, I think, for all of us right now, and that's insurance. And I think insurance is gonna be the biggest enemy of real estate in the next couple of years or further because of climate change and other issues. I
Yeah.
think it's a hidden enemy. So I know, for example, you're going from buying those buildings because you want that nice one by the water paid off, right? But I bet your insurance is gonna be a lot more by the water. So to summarize my question here is, how will you as a math guy, how do you factor in for those surprises? Or what mechanisms or systems do you have to analyze all those things? Because they're kind of scary, you know?
They are scary until it happens. And then you realize it's just another line item. But the way that I walk through these units, it's the same way I did when I was beginning and I didn't know what I was doing. I walk through every unit I can. You can't always get through all of them on the mid-sized complexes. But I try and get through as many as possible. And then I hire an inspector and they're gonna walk through and let me know what's going on with the roof, what's going on with the general plumbing. A lot of stuff I've bought has had galvanized plumbing. That was great decades ago before I was born. It sucks now. So they let me know anything that they see, and then there's always gonna be things that they don't see. But if the roof is 10 years old and it's asphalt shingle, I'm not super concerned about it. If a tree goes through it, then I have insurance and my premium will skyrocket, but it'll be covered. But I just try and get control over as many things as I can. It's not a guarantee. It's a business and things happen. But the big components I want to have an understanding of, and everything else. I mean, I bought a deal where maintenance wasn't the issue. The seller was paying all the tenants cash to stay until closing. And I went from 100% occupancy to 8% occupancy on a 12-plex. Well, my one tenant did pay, but everybody left. So if things pop up, it sucks. And you don't really know how bad it sucks until you go through it. But most people are good people. And if you hire a licensed inspector who's been in the business for a bit, you just ask for referrals in the business. They go over the fundamentals of the building. You can get a good idea of what will pop up.
And we have a couple more. Do you have a question?
Why do you want a free and clear portfolio? Like, do you want to retire or something?
Wow.
He's kind of retirement age, he's been doing this for a while.
4 long years.
Live by the water.
Almost the same question, like what is the advantage of having a portfolio so early?
If it's worth doing, it's worth doing once and doing it right. And what I've learned from investors, and I've seen it anywhere from $10 million net worth as high as a little north of $1 billion. You've got people on both sides. They love to lever, and then some people like to pay it off. I've found more, just as like a number count, more successful real estate people that paid all of their stuff off. And they did it in blocks. So they got the first couple million and they did some flips and paid it off. And then they did the next bigger block. So maybe they went from 2 million to 8, and then they paid that off. And then they levered to get to 20 and then paid it off. So they used leverage as a growth mechanism, but they didn't keep it on the portfolio.
Do you want to start doing ground up development?
Yes,
Okay, have you done any ground up development?
I'm doing it right now, and I'm of course seller financing it.
Wow.
So the guy seller financed the property to me, it has apartments on it, and he is financing the development cost at 6% IO.
Yeah, I love it. It's just like, so he's financing.
I love-
Is he a
I love-
partner?
what's the-
Is he
the
a
look on
partner?
He's not a
Funny
partner. I own it 100%. He is the builder.
He's
He's the builder and
Yeah.
he's the bank. But again, everything you want, someone else has. He has money. I have no money. Well, less than him. And but I do have a property that he sold me and they own money on. So we're just doing a loan mod where we're turning a 280 note that I have on 6plex into like a 880 note. And I'm gonna build more apartments behind it.
So there's a story, regardless of what you think of him politically, Donald Trump, when he was first getting started, and I'm gonna butcher this story a bit, but he came into New York and you might know the story, there was a building that basically no one could build on, it was held up for different reasons, but he basically negotiated between these 3 different groups that were like city groups or things, whatever, to like all get them to like sign off on it's okay if he took over and managed this and gave them up, like, he just found a win-win. He didn't come with any cash, but he basically ended up owning the building. So again, like, well, as we think about like, and it's hard as a syndicator, it's like, well, I just want to raise money. It's like, well, no, like, and I've been thinking this lately, like, can I do something? You know, I had somebody approach me with a few hotels in Tennessee and I was like, there may be a way I could do this with no money down. You know, just to figure out what they want, figure out a way to make it work, or find one and make a call, like, hey, I got this thing going. What do you think about this? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, on the syndication front, if you're buying a $10 million deal, putting, let's just say $4 million down, to double the money, you have to get to go $4 million net of fees. If you do the same exact deal with $1 million down, the ROI is a little bit higher.
Crazy, yeah, like, 4 times. It's good. We got a couple more. Let's go over here and then we'll come over and get a wrap. Yeah.
Thanks for the talk. So we have a question about seller finance.
Yeah.
So like, how do you evaluate whether this seller finance deal is good or like a risky, or how do you negotiate it?
Yeah,
Great question, but we just read the question so that.
yeah. How do you evaluate if a seller finance deal is good or risky? Your risk in real estate is directly determined by your debt product. So the risk in seller financing is you don't have an appraiser or an underwriter over your shoulder that's saying, oh, this isn't gonna work. You have to do the math yourself or in the partnership group, however you're buying it. There's nobody that's gonna say, oh, this will work for you or it won't. So it really comes down to making sure that you have more than enough rents above and beyond your operating expenses like taxes, insurance, utilities, to service that debt. And then the last thing is you have to have long-term debt. Your exposure in real estate all comes down to your timelines on your debt. That's where people get desperate. They got to refinance. Maybe they did bridge loans or variable rate loans. In seller financing, you can establish how long of a loan you have, when it has to be paid off, and if it's going to be fixed or variable. And it doesn't have to be fixed forever. You could do year 1 at 3%, and then year 2 at 3.5%, and then 4%. Or if you want to do no money down, you could do a seller finance first position loan for 90%, seller finance second for the other 10%. You get to make up terms and you can break it up however you want, but it comes down to long-term fixed rate debt and cash flow. And if you can have those things, then it would probably be a good deal.
So I think we're actually at time. You're gonna be around for a bit too.
I'm
So
around.
He is flying out at 4 a.m. tomorrow. He'll
Yep.
be up early, but he will be hanging out for a bit here. We're gonna be doing networking in a little bit, so I want to explain that. But first of all, I just wanted to acknowledge you, Cody, for jumping on a plane and spend some time with us. I also wanted to say you're just even in this conversation, seeing more of the grasp of how you explain math very simply, how you explain how this works. The factor rate is something I'm gonna look at, and using, you know, basically your cost of capital versus a cap rate is a very simple way to do it. And then just, I think for all of us, just finding a way of, you know, instead of I can't do that, is how can I do this? And just trying to find a way, talk to the people that have done it and figure out how they've done it. And just that's a great principle in life, to be a learner, right? Would you agree that's a great principle, to be a learner? I'm sure there's things we can go around and get takeaways from this, but did you guys find a lot of value from this tonight? That's great. Can we give Cody a big hand for? Before we have you step down, we're gonna do a quick selfie and then Steve is gonna come up. Steve, if you wanna come up, we can talk about the second.
Get him in so.
Because of the second portion of the night, so not that we're gonna be here for like another 4 hours, but we have some people that wanna stay for 4 hours. Move here and jump in here. So- Oh, wait. I'll be. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, cool. Okay.
All right, guys, let's give him a big hand, guys. Awesome. This keeps getting better and better. Every time we have one for people like Cody come up here, it's just, they make it so easy to do this, right? So how many of you guys are inspired to go ahead and do this for yourself? Yeah, right, exactly. Sign me up, right? Yeah, absolutely. Let's give it a big hand for Cody, guys, one more time. Thank you, Cody. Excellent. All right, sounds good. So the second part of the evening, where's our clicker? Do you guys still have the clicker on you? Bronson, do you happen to have the clicker on you?
I've got it here, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I will click you anyway.
All right. Thanks, Phil. All right, awesome. Great job. Okay, so I hope you guys have got some value out of it. Couple of people, just what are you walking away? Please, just a couple of people share. What are you getting? What are you walking away? Yes.
I think it's just about meeting with people that know the information that you want to learn. I think that's so massive and it takes a lot of humility, I think, to do that, but obviously it's played a big role for Cody.
Obviously. Okay, perfect. Great job. Who else? Yes.
Well, the flexibility in, as Cody said, you make up your terms. Whatever you want, you can work out.
Yeah, you can give them anything you want and see how it plays out for you. Yeah. One more person.
Build, stabilize, optimize, payoff.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's actually also what I'm walking away with is the fact that the way he leverages himself, he always leverages himself just enough so he can go and sell something and roll himself into something else. He talked about that. He gets himself in really the right position and being able to get that. I think that all comes back again to doing the due diligence correctly, making sure you get yourself in the right building. Okay, perfect. Yes, awesome. Good stuff. All right, sounds good. So let me go ahead and tell you what's going on. So we have a course, guys. Now some of you guys took the Real Estate 101. Real Estate 101, and this particular one that we have next one, which is the residential cash flowing. And then the one after this is a 6-month course, okay? This is a prerequisite. These are actually 3 classes that we are doing. You want to come up, Christina? So I'm just going to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. So we've already done the 101. Some of you guys did the 101. And now this is the second course. And in this course, Christina is going to talk about really what you're going to get to walk away with. It is a all-day course, okay? And so it's about 8 hours. We're offering it this Saturday. Again, if you are planning of getting into real estate and moving forward in your journey, these are the courses you want to get yourself into, right? You want to go and say a little bit about it, please.
Absolutely. I just want to get that bite out of my mouth before I start talking. So we did Real Estate 101, and the concept of Real Estate 101 was really, where do I want to start? Right? And so how many people here in the room took Real Estate 101? I know that you guys were here. Some of you guys took that. Beautiful. What you got out of Real Estate 101 was what I call your North Star. What portfolio am I wanting to create? Cody called it goalposts. What's my goalposts? What is it that I want? Do I want to have this much in equity? Do I want to have this much in cash flow per month? So you can become asset agnostic and really focus on what's your goal inside of the field of real estate. Now, what does this next course teach? This next course teaches if I want to invest in residential cash flowing real estate, one thing Cody talked about, residential cash flowing real estate. How do I do that? How do I comp a property? What are the things I want to look at so that I'm not surprised? How do I read the physical inspection report? What is it that I need to do in order to identify this is the best building for me in this neighborhood? And how do I answer that question? So we literally walk you through what do I do to get my right net income? How do I confirm what the rental income is going to be on this property? How do I call the city in being able to make sure that I understand that all the units are permitted or not? So the actual checklist for you being able to go from the beginning of identifying the property to the point of purchase. So that's what we cover in this particular residential cash flow. And it's the basis for the longer 6-month course, because once you've got the numbers, the steps that we want to teach you, then that 6-month course is about getting you to the point where you're actually in the process of purchasing. So this is your foundational information that gets you ready to actually purchase.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Yeah, thank you. Christina makes it so simple, by the way, but it's really not that simple. It really is, but learning, absolutely doing your due diligence. We've been in business for a while, and I got to tell you, I've made some pretty big mistakes. And frankly, when I was going through the slides again, and I am now, in the last 5-6 years that I've been investing, I've been very, very, very successful because I have done really, I've gone through it again and again and again. I'm so lucky I have my son with me, so he also goes through it again and again. We kill the deal before we buy it. It's like, this is the worst deal. It's got to be the worst. How can we make it not work? And if everything works out, then that's the deal we go for. Right. And that's really, I think that's Cody's also has done also is the due diligence. So inside of this course, by the way, like Christina says, you really get a full checklist. So have I done this? Have I checked this off? Did I talk to so-and-so? Did I do the city? Did I do all my homework? And then you pass it on with your other peers or take it to your banker and say, hey, does this make sense? Does this make sense for me to put my money on it? If it gives you a green light, then yes, it's a go. Okay, so it's kind of, that's the sort of exercise we actually get to teach you inside of that. And you'll find out by having those sort of ammunitions, you can go way longer. You can go way, way longer. You don't have to, get in the middle of the deal and say, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have done that, or I should have done that kind of a thing. So this course is going to teach you that. And it is $699. Those of you guys who would like to register this evening, you're welcome to take the $200 off. And again, you can go ahead and use that code that I have on the bottom, which is the RC. It's RCI, by the way. It's not a 1. It's RCI 24, and they'll get you to where you want to go. Now, what else I want to go through that? So I want to go talk about a little bit about our sponsors. Just real quickly, we have a couple of sponsors, guys. By the way, our sponsors are phenomenal people. To start with, I would like to go ahead and acknowledge. Okay, sounds good. So we have, of course, as you guys know, this building really is something that we put together here. Okay, we're gonna start. Okay, good. So let me just tell you our first sponsor. Let's go ahead and acknowledge. Why don't you come on up? Yeah, let's go ahead. This is the gentleman that brings us all the video.
Name is Thomas Slave, and thank you so much, Christina and Bronson, for making this event happen every month. This is actually a very informative event. I learned a lot from this event. That's why we're actually here to support you guys also. So by the way, my name is Rodrigo Suerte Felipe. I'm also a realtor by professions. I'm a 3-time cycle with the EXP. I don't know if you guys familiar with EXP, but EXP actually it's a cloud-based company or real estate. So, but I also an entrepreneur, so I own a business. So this is actually the business that I own. This is a virtual assistant company. If you guys are so busy with your transactions, with your business and everything, actually the virtual assistants could help you actually on your back end. I mean, in fact, Steve is actually one of our clients here. So if you need more information, we have this paper actually in your desk. You can scan the QR code and you could get all the information. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a little bit about the company, by the way. We actually started with them about a month ago or so. And what I was really impressed with them was that when we got together, Rigo said, Steve, whatever you want, we'll make it work. Don't worry about it. Whatever you want, we'll make it work. And then he brought on actually 4 different people for us to interview. And he had 4 different people, 1 for administrative, and two for administrative, and 2 for SMO and social media and so on. And it was really wonderful to just do that online, to really sit down and talk to people face to face. And in the end, we said, we'd like to go ahead and try out this young lady. And you know what? It's been I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's been really, really, really phenomenal. And what I really love about them is the fact they are a team that work together. So it's not like just some individual that you work with. They also have team leaders that go ahead and make sure that you're supported. So if you guys looking for a good VA, this is the gentleman to go to. Okay, the next person we are going to go ahead and acknowledge is this building here, New York Life Insurance. And we have our representative, Max. Let's give Max a big hand. Yes.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Max.
My name is Max. My middle name is Harrison. My last name is Cater. I'm a New York Life agent. I'm actually one of the top agents here at the office. Top, 25 right now at the office. And I'm really good at my job. If anybody wants to talk about life insurance or anything really, my goal is to provide financial literacy and education to people so they can come up with, so they could make their own decisions and make their own or come up with a strategy to become financially independent. Everybody, generally speaking, must have an offensive strategy to build wealth over time so they can become financially independent. But over time, as you become more financially stable, you need to shift your strategy to become more defensive to protect your assets instead of losing them. There's no point for pointless risk. And you might as well just keep your money and use it for something like real estate or retirement or taking care of your kids or something. Either way, everybody needs to have a strategy. Who here already has a strategy? Okay. Who here does not have a strategy? Okay, it's kind of funny because everybody's basically same amount, same number.
Minute ago, all those other hands should be
Right?
raised now. Just saying.
Doesn't change the fact, everybody here still needs some type of strategy. Whether it involves life insurance, whether it involves investments, whether it involves a high yield savings account. Who here knows what a high yield savings account is? There you go. See? High yield savings account. You always want to make sure that your money is growing at a certain expectation. You can imagine a lot of people are like proud. "Oh, yeah, my money's growing at about 5% rate of return." A high yield savings account can do that. If your real estate property is only getting you 5% rate of return, what's the point if your savings account can outperform your return on your apartment complex? Otherwise, vice versa. If you really are putting all your money into a highly aggressive, very risky investment, you have to be ready and you have to have some reasons behind that. The older you are, the more aggressive you need to be. The poorer you are, the more aggressive you need to be. But you still need to be rationally strategic. Don't just throw your money at the crypto market and hope that it's going to come back to you, because that bubble's going to pop shortly. It's going to come back, but either way, once again, personal advice. I'm not allowed to talk crypto. Either way, I'm an open book. I talk a lot. If anybody just wants to have lunch with me and just goof around, talk about something. I have many clients in the room already. All they like to do is talk over food. So if anybody wants to go get some donuts, some chicken, some burgers, some tacos, yeah, let me know.
Awesome.
I can actually pay for it too.
Thank you. Guys who wants to stay late, so we're gonna just kind of give you an idea. What we're kind of doing is that the second part of the evening, it's gonna be all about you guys, okay? It's gonna be about you walking away with valuable information from the other people that are in the room. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and break you up. This is really where the networking starts to happen. And we're gonna break you up into groups of people. And Christina's gonna come and talk about that in just a minute. And so we're gonna go ahead and break you up, and that's gonna give you an opportunity to go ahead and really, again, please be sure, do not go home without making a connection with somebody else this evening. Schedule something, okay? Walk away knowing you connected with someone, so you can call them or take them out to lunch or do something that you can take you to the next level in your journey. With that said, we're gonna go ahead and complete. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Yes, let's give ourselves a big hand. Christina, you want to go ahead and break us up? Go for it.
Great. So let me be a little transparent here with some of my logistics. Okay, where are my assistants that are gonna be leading circles? Please stand up so I can count you guys.
Yeah.
Stand up, stand up. Stacy, I need you, stand up. Noah, great. Okay, so I've got 4 assistants that are leading circles tonight. Where's Cody?
It's gone today.
Sorry,
The other Cody.
the other Cody. Sorry, Cody.
Cody, we don't have.
Cody, you want to lead a circle? You're welcome to lead a circle. All right, Cody will lead a circle. People leading circles. Thank you, Cody. Here's what we do in our circles, Cody. You can listen. What we do in our circles is we share our name, right? We share what we're doing in real estate, and we're sharing what either we're looking for or what we have to offer. Now, let me tell you something. Now, remember, I'm a real estate investment advisor. What does that mean? That means on Monday through Thursday, 9 to 2, I talk to people about how they're going to craft their portfolio and their financial freedom through real estate. That's what I do. Now, what do these people, what do my clients need to do that? They need other people. That's right. It's about developing relationships with other people. And the best way to do that is to do networking. And the best way to do networking is to say, hey, this is who I am. Hi, I'm Christina. Great to meet you. You know, I love doing real estate. I'm personally doing residential right now. What real estate are you doing?
Nothing.
What real estate do you think you want to do?
Residential.
Residential, you know what? I love talking about residential. Maybe we should have some coffee and we can talk about investing in residential real estate. Right? I either met somebody who could be a partner, somebody who could be an investor, somebody who could be a mentor. Right? And the way I did that was by just talking. So I'm gonna make you guys talk a little bit. So no hiding. Make sure you go to the circle. It's very simple. We have 5 people. Thank you very, very much, Cody. And we're just gonna literally count you off by 1 through 5. And yes, I'm gonna break you from the person that's sitting next to you. So don't be overly attached. You can say hi to them in about 20 minutes. Okay, so start with number 1. You're gonna be circle 1. JC, you're gonna run circle 1. You're gonna run circle 2. Okay, you're gonna be number 2. Okay.
Next to me, okay.
Alan, are you running a circle? Okay, so are you going to a circle?
I am going to.
Okay, so 3. 4, 5. Noah, you're gonna run circle 3? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect.
1,
You do too.
3, 4.
All right, you're 1.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
okay, and
1, 2.
4,
1.
5,
1,
2,
4. And yeah, Larry, you're 5. Okay, beautiful. So my assistants, please go to the other room. Hold up the finger that you're the group leader of. JC, you're 1. Clarissa, you're 2. Noah, you're 3. Nick, you're 4. Cody, you're 5.
5.
Say goodbye to Zoom.
Thank you.
I Zoom.
It's me. Sorry.
Oh, see you, bro.
Recording